You are listening to Plantastic Events podcast, episode number 36. Hey everyone, welcome to Plantastic Events. I'm your host, Noshin Punjani. This is a weekly podcast dedicated to help you plan your events with ease. Be sure to subscribe at stewjap.com and stay up to date. That's stewjap.com. Plus, you'll receive tons of resources, freebies, guides, and show notes. Thank you for joining, and now let's get into this show. Hey everyone, I'm your host Noshin Punjani, and today our guest is Alana Moss. She is a former chairperson for the Duluth Fall Festival, and currently she manages the volunteers for the festival. The award-winning festival roots back more than 50 years, and they bring more than 300 volunteers. That's impressive. From installing decorations, to unloading and loading vendor stock, to working at the Festival Concession Stand, or managing a committee, you can be sure that there's a job for you. And today, Alana is here to talk about how she manages all those volunteers and bring the festival alive. Thank you, Alana, for being here. You're an inspiration to us, and you've just guided us so much. So I'm definitely very happy that you're here today.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's exciting to see how your company is advancing.
Thank you. Your guidance is always very supportive, too. I wanted to first just ask you just to learn a little bit more about you and how you started with Duluth Fall Festival. What inspired you to start, I guess, being a part of the festival?
Well, when I was a child, my family moved around quite a bit, and we really never had any roots. So I lived in Illinois, Georgia, Iowa, California, back to Georgia. I think I've lived in Georgia 3 times.
Really?
And so I really didn't feel like I had a hometown. And so when I moved to Duluth, I felt like this is where I wanted to be, and I wanted to get involved in the community. And I wanted to get to know some people because I really didn't have many friends there.
Yeah.
So that was just, I went to the festival a couple of years, and I just saw the camaraderie of the people that were there, and I thought, I want to be a part of this. It was exciting to me, and I felt like it'd be a way to get to feel like I was really a member of that community. So that's what drew me in.
When did you move to Duluth and started, I guess, being a part of the festival?
I came here in 1985, and I think the festival started in 83. So
1985, I don't believe that. It seems like you were born then. So.
Yeah, but then I moved away actually for a few years and to Decatur. But I really just my heart, something Duluth. About Duluth I loved. So we came back to Duluth, and then
beautiful city.
Right. And so I probably got in the festival involved in it around 1996 or 97.
Okay, yeah. What did you start doing for the festival then, or was it just volunteering in general?
Well, I just volunteered in general, and then actually after my husband and I had been involved a couple of years, we were approached to handle the trash. That was a committee that could never get anybody to, only we call it cleanup. That makes it sound a little nicer.
Much better.
But it was really trash. And so they always had a difficult time finding people to do that, and obviously, as you can imagine. And so my husband and I did that for several years and really tried to revamp it and made it so that we could actually get people to volunteer for us. And we've moved on from that now. But that was our first big committee that we worked on, and I was proud to say that we actually made it function.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge, but we made it work.
And a difficult challenge. So definitely there. And you volunteered just to get an idea as to what the festival is all about. So since then, you've been pretty loyal to the festival in general.
Yes. I can say that I've just developed so many friendships through it. And I think we all feel that way. The people that on our festival, we have about 350 volunteers.
Wow.
And so our goal is actually to improve the city of Duluth and to beautify it. And that's what all our proceeds go to. And so everyone that is involved with the festival has that that feeling in their heart where they really want to do improve our city and make our city better. And it just generates a lot of friendships through that, and it's nice because we do some other things outside of the festival, but I think that also keeps our volunteers coming back because we have that connection.
Yeah. So how did you start to, I guess the role that you have now, how did you start to manage volunteers? Where did that shift?
Okay, well, several years ago,
Yeah.
a friend of mine told me about another local festival and told me that she noticed that they had volunteering online.
Oh.
And we didn't do that at that point. We have monthly meetings, and so which are pretty much year round. We take a break between October and January, but the rest of the year we do have our monthly meetings. That's where we kind of recruit and encourage people to keep coming every month, and that's also where we have people sign up for different activities during the festival. But the problem with that is you have to rely on people showing up to the meeting, and they may or may not come, depending upon what other things are going on with their schedule. So when my friend told me about this opportunity to sign people up online, I thought, wow, we're really missing out on something that we could potentially get more volunteers and also connect with people that weren't able to make our meeting for some reason. Yeah. So I started looking on the web to find out if there were any tools that actually helped you do that. I think I did talk to the person at that other festival that was signing their volunteers online already, but they actually had all a developer, and they were developing their own software to do that. And I knew
wow.
Yeah, and
fancy.
Our festival was all volunteers, so I knew we weren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I found a few different sites that had volunteering tools, and some worked better than others. A lot of them are developed pretty much just to handle volunteering at local schools and things like that, and they really didn't have the capacity to
for festivals.
Throw what we needed to do. Yeah. Right. But so that's kind of how I got involved in the volunteering and the membership, and even though we have 350 volunteers, it's never enough. So we're
always need more.
Right. So we're always looking at ways that we can recruit more people. But our biggest way to get people involved is really from the friendships or people that have attended our festivals that see what it's all about, and they kind of get excited about it, and then they want to get involved, and then they'll reach out and ask, how could they volunteer.
So when you were looking for those electronic options to kind of move in the direction of making everything online, were you doing it just for managing the volunteers, or was it also for the recruitment? And if so, how did you start recruiting volunteers? Well,
it is a little bit for recruiting because people can go to our website, and then we have a menu dedicated to just volunteers, and so they can see out in there what the requirements for volunteering are, and what the different activities that you could do as a volunteer. So there is some recruitment gone through that, but it's mostly recruitment is mostly through connections with people, or like I said, people that have attended the festival and enjoyed it, and then they will reach out, and
word of mouth.
They may send us an email, or their friend asks them to come to our monthly meeting. I think we have information about our monthly meetings on the site too, so sometimes people just show up that have seen that on
it's public, so it's just like anyone can attend. Okay.
Yes, and everybody on the festival isn't just in Duluth too. Most of our people are in Duluth, but we do have a lot of people from surrounding communities, and we even have people from Florida and I think Tennessee and South Carolina. A lot of them are people that have lived in Duluth in the past, and then they come back for the festival weekend because they enjoyed it so much. And that's another thing that's great about having things online, because those people don't have to be to our meetings, and they can sign up for what they want to do.
And they can see what's available, what's not available, just that whole management piece of it, too.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's incredible. And to see that you get folks that come from out of state, just because like their hometown used to be in Duluth doesn't mean that they've separated away from Duluth. They're still a part of it.
Yep. Yeah, you need to come to see our festival, and you'll see why.
Oh, yeah, we're excited. We'll be there. I guess I just also wanted to know, do you also, I guess you're talking about an online platform, but do you also use like social media sites or other platforms to kind of get interest in new volunteers, or like trying to find those different types of volunteers that don't come through word of mouth?
Yeah, sure. We do use social media. We've just been getting involved with that probably the last 5 years.
Oh, really?
But it's pretty new, and it's challenging in its own way because our festival is 100% volunteers, so we don't really have any full-time employees. So it's all when people have time to do things in their own spare time. None of us have spare time, but that we will post things on social media and invite people to come to our meetings. And we also try to put a lot of things out there that kind of just show what our festival is about to get people excited about it. And hopefully that will get people to come in to volunteer as well. But we do reach out through social media. And we have a company that does help us out when it gets close to festival time, which they are working with us now. And they're really good about posting things on all the different social media sites. So
I see your LinkedIn posts all the time. And
right.
I'm like, this is nice.
And that's why it's busy right now, because that company is helping us out with that. And so they are on LinkedIn, so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
Wow.
All those, and that's just exploding. So it's really hard to keep up with that. But that's why we have a company that's helping us out to do that.
Focuses on that, just that.
Right.
Okay, that's interesting. What about when you have to find, like you're looking for certain skill sets, right? Like those volunteers that have a right type of skill set. Do you search out for them, or do you already have like a laundry list of the 300 and some volunteers, and that these folks have skills in videography? I don't know if that's a thing. Is that a thing? But something like that.
Could be. Well, we have so many people that there's usually some people that have the niche skill that you're looking for. One thing that's difficult to find sometimes is photography, and so we do have several photographers, but we have some professional photographers. Our town actually has a lot of artists that live there, and so we've pulled from that community. We have an art league that has people that do all different kind of artsy things, so we have a lot of connection with that group. We work with them, and they have helped us out with the photography business. And then the sound production is something that we're always looking for people to help us with sound, because we have two different stages. Then we have a parade that runs sound.
Which is exciting.
Yes, and then a road race where they run sound for that. And the great thing about the sound committee is they're always looking for people, but they will train. So if there's something that, for most of our committees, if there's something somebody's has an interest in, but they don't know how to do it, someone will show you, and help you and show you the ropes, because we want people to do what they love, because that'll make them come back.
And that also gives which I didn't even think about, it gives them a chance to build their own career. Like let's say they are interested in photography, but they might not have the right skill sets. If they are linked with someone who is more professional, you're also helping them in their career, which is in itself a benefit when you think about it.
Yep. Right. And like I said, when people like what they're doing, then they'll come back, and that's the key. And that's the key to having a big volunteer base, is to make sure that you get the people that are your loyal volunteers, that they just keep coming back every year, and then you just try to grow incrementally with new people. But you've got to have that base, and so they've got to like what they do, or they won't. They don't have any reason to,
Yeah, and how can you not like the Duluth Fall Festival, folks? They're incredible. Right. They're always awesome and very sweet to work with. But just to kind of get an idea too, when you have 350 different volunteers with different skill sets and different expertise, how do you? This has to be challenging, right? How do you assign shifts or slots, or trying to figure out the right timing? All of those things are like, it's just a lot of work. How do you do that?
Well, our festival's been around so long that what we have done, and I don't know that every festival does this, but we kind of have chairmen of different committees.
Okay.
So we have our different committees that trash is obviously a big one, entertainment, parade, silent auction. We've just got a lot of different things, and so we have one person that kind of takes that committee and runs with it.
Okay.
And that usually comes from allowing people to choose what they want to do, and people will rise up to the chairmanship role because it's something that they enjoy. And then that person is responsible for coming up with how they run their committee and coming up with the time slots and so forth. And so what we've discovered, though, is hopefully we learn every year. And so we make tweaks every year because we say, oh, that really didn't work so well. I really needed to have a few more people during this time frame. And so they adjust every year. But we've got our history from what that happened the previous year, and that helps us build and hopefully improve. Yes.
Yeah. What about, what advice would you give for those festivals that are smaller with probably not such a nice committee or nice big committee where chairman roles can be taken or chairperson roles can be taken for these different activities? Maybe it's just one or two people managing an entire festival.
Right.
What advice would you give to them when it comes to managing 300 and some volunteers?
Right. Well, the first thing I would do is to find some other festival and ask them if you can get some information from them. And we've done that. We've gone to other festivals and asked them for help, and we've had other festivals come and meet with us and get tips. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, Peachtree Corners here,
they're awesome.
I was so impressed with them because this festival was so new, and all of a sudden I saw they were doing I looked on their website and I thought, wow, they're doing a lot of the same things we are.
Yeah.
And then
they love you guys.
We talked with them a few weeks ago, and they shared with us that they had come to our festival and they've kind of observed how we've done things, and they've kind of learned from that. So even though we weren't formally meeting, we've helped them out, and we didn't even know it.
Exactly.
And we've done the same thing. We've gone to other big festivals around here. How do they do that? And we steal the ideas and improve them. There's nothing that is patented. So
you're inspiring others,
right?
In the same sense. If you actually even get a chance to attend a festival, we're learning this, and we're not even in the industry now. We are, but when we start attending different events and different festivals, we start to realize that there's some differences, some commonalities, which we can also take to others. And we're this looks nice. This setup is good. Or this is how they run that's why I started this podcast to begin with. But it's good to see that you can get inspired by other festivals and events and learn from them.
Right. And it's so great to go see the way somebody else did something, and it inspires you to do something new, but you put a twist on it and make it your own, and because every festival is different and has their unique things they're focusing on, and so it doesn't necessarily come out looking like what inspired you in the first place. So it's fun to do that, and it's fun to go to these other festivals and see how they run things, and you always learn something every time I see something. Wow, we never thought of that, and because they're all held in different locations, and they have different amenities, and it's interesting.
What do you think? I know that you've worked quite heavily with not only managing volunteers, but being a part of with the festival and kind of getting an understanding of the technology that goes behind certain things. What do you think are the biggest technological limitations when it comes to just volunteers and managing volunteers? What are some of the big things that you would say, I would like to see this, in the future? This is where I vision it to go for folks like me to be able to better manage my volunteers.
Well, probably the biggest thing is, and I had somebody tell me this last year, that some people feel like the technology kind of takes away some of the personal touch or the hometown feeling away from things. And this person actually shared with me that she really liked the fact that we had everything online. She's actually one of our volunteers that's from Tennessee. But she said I understand why we're doing this because it makes sense, but it also makes me feel kind of a little more far removed. And of course, she's got that situation because she's in Tennessee. But she said it takes a little the personal touch away from it. And so I understand that. And so I think, that's one thing we've got to figure out, how the technology can help us really touch people and make them feel like they're wanted and that they're appreciated and so forth. How can we use the technology to help us do that, since it may make people feel a little more removed from everything. And our volunteers, we have all ages, but we do have an aging population, just like the way the U.S. does. And so I think that makes it a little more difficult even for that group of people, because their technology is a little bit newer to them and so forth. And so it's just a little different. Younger people are, they've lived with it their whole life, so it's really they depend change. On it. Right. Yeah. So it's a little, I think you got to remember your different audiences that you're trying to reach out to.
You're absolutely right. And I think technology is changing very quickly.
Yes.
And sometimes that can also be intimidating, right? I think oftentimes what happens is that when you're like, there's so many things being thrown at me at once, I want to just be able to manage something correctly, manage my volunteers better, but I don't want to lose that human touch to it too, right? So it's like this fine balance. How do you make sure that something is moving along with time and advancing in time, but also keeping that homeschool-like approach, you're having that humanly contact with all your volunteers. Definitely a good point, and definitely something to think about. My other question was just, as you work with these volunteers, when you mentioned that human touch approach, are there ways that you can motivate them outside of connecting with them through these online platforms, like maybe even having a reception, or do you do these types of things for your festival for your volunteers?
Right. Well, okay. Well, we do actually, like I had mentioned that earlier, we do pretty much meet year round. Like I said, we take a little bit break there during the holidays.
Yeah.
But we try to think of other things where we can get our volunteers involved. And again, to give us that sense of community, because that does keep the people coming back.
Yes, it does.
And so we do have our monthly meetings, which we have a little social time before the meetings. We take about a half hour just to dedicate just to people visiting and having snacks and talking and catching up.
Yeah.
And then the following week, we have what we call Festival Night Out. And what we do is, this is kind of a twofer, because we hold it at different restaurants, but they're always restaurants that we target that help us throughout the year do different things for us. They're sponsors for us.
Right.
So we'll pick one of our sponsor restaurants, and we'll have an evening there. And then we have everybody wear their T-shirts so we can advertise a little bit.
Of course, that's always a plus.
Right. We can advertise for volunteers and advertise the festival. So that's good. And so we typically have people reserve so we know how many people are going to come, just because we don't want to surprise the restaurant with a huge bunch of people that just come on their front door. But so we typically get maybe like 30 people out at a restaurant, and then they get to visit, and we really don't talk about festival business that night. I mean, some things might come up, but it's more an opportunity for us to get to know each other better, because again, we all have other lives going on, and this is just a tiny part of it. But so we want to find out what we can to get to know the people.
Yeah, especially if they're new.
Right. Yeah, it's a great way for new people to kind of to get involved and get to know some of the other people. Plus, during the festival, especially if you're a chairman of a committee, you kind of just get to know those people that are in that committee, and you may not really get to know some of the other people.
Right.
And since we do have so many volunteers, a lot of people don't come to meetings. You only see them that festival weekend. So we try to do some other events where we can reach out and get to know people. And then another thing that we did, oh gosh, we probably had this maybe 10 years, is we decided to have people get name tags. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, or maybe just simple.
Not really. I mean, it's good.
But there's so many volunteers, and if you only see them once a month, or if you never weren't at the meeting where they were new and introduced, you don't know who they are, and they may know you, and that's a very uncomfortable feeling when someone knows your name and you don't know theirs.
That happens all the time.
It's the worst.
And my name is complicated,
right,
so you know.
Right. Yeah, maybe we should think about getting pronunciations on there too.
We should. I know.
But that really the name tag thing is really great because then all the time you can go and you feel confident that you know who the person is, and you don't have to say, oh, what was her name? I can't remember her name, but she's talking to you and you can't respond. So the name tags just really breaks the ice.
Yeah.
And it sounds, like I said, it's such a simple thing, but it has been just great. And then we also wear them, obviously, to all our events, but to the festival weekend, too. So it lets just the community know who we are, too. And it makes it look, I feel like, a little more professional, a little more like a business, even though we're really all just volunteers. But there's just a little commitment to having your name on your shirt. And
makes you feel more official.
Right.
You know. Even when you are volunteering, I think the idea is also to just get to know each other, right? Initially, what you mentioned.
Right.
Sometimes it does get a little uncomfortable to ask someone's name, even though you might have met them a couple of times, but just can't seem to remember. The name tags come in handy.
Right.
You don't feel so, isolated, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it gives it that extra added feeling, too. So even though it's more official, at the same time, it gives it that community approach that people know each other.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's a good thing. What about when it comes to training? I know that can get challenging, right? I know you mentioned a few things where you said that if someone might be limited in their skill sets, they are linked to someone with probably more skills in that department, I guess.
Right.
But in general, do you have training programs, or do you have to guide folks on doing certain types of things?
Right. Well, we've gone round and round about that.
Yeah.
We've talked about having a special meeting just for new volunteers, and that's just really never happened for us, and just for different reasons. It seems like all of a sudden the festival's here and nobody knew it was coming, even though we did for 365 days.
Everybody forgot. No.
Right. So we've talked about that. We've tossed that around. Then we thought about, well, we could require people to do certain things before they're allowed to volunteer, but we just really don't want to turn off people. So,
that's what I'm thinking.
Right. So really, we kind of rely on the committee chairperson to get with their people that have decided to volunteer with them and kind of show them the ropes. And most of the jobs we have are, and you could just walk on the job and the person could give you 5 minutes and you know what to do.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, there's a few that are a little more complicated, like the sound and so forth. But most things are just anybody could do it. And we try to have a lot of different types of things to get involved in, because we have a lot of volunteers that really, they're older, or they may be even limited from a disability. But we found,
I didn't think about that.
We have several that we have a person in a wheelchair and in different things. And so we find things for them to do, because there's plenty of stuff that people can do. We have an information booth. We have a lot of people working there.
There's everything.
And even the information booth, the person who runs that, he's a super nice man, but he will always say, you don't have to know anything to work the information booth, because he's going to show you, and he's got a map of the festival. 90% of the questions are people come up and want to know where a specific booth is, or they want to know where they can get an automatic teller machine that gets some money. So we'll show you. We don't want to turn anyone away, because we have a job that you can do. You
don't want them to feel lost either, so it's good to know that they are, they're welcomed. Everybody and anybody is welcomed to volunteer at this festival, to be an attendee, because I know I've gone to different festivals too, and it's always uncomfortable to also feel lost. It's nice to see that there's a volunteer, there's a smiling face there that will be willing to guide you. Right? Those small things really do add up.
Yeah, and we pride ourselves on that very feeling. I mean, we've heard many, many times about our festival, and that the people that attend it, like the volunteers, or get a good feeling, of a good vibe. But also our vendors, we have one committee, or a couple committees actually, that help our vendors get their booths set up, and we help them unload their wares and load them back up, and we'll help them set their booths up, and a lot of other festivals don't do that, and we get a lot of compliments on that they all the time will hear vendors say that they never get that at any other festival. So that makes us feel really good. And one thing that with that particular committee that's really great is we have some connections with the local schools.
That helps.
And yes, and we have some teachers and so forth and people that work in the school system, but they've recruited some of the different committees or groups that do volunteer work at the high schools, and they will get in there volunteer. And those people are wonderful. I mean, those kids will come and they're always well behaved and just they're really upbeat, and they'll help get everything unloaded, and it's nice though. So like I said, we have all ages.
And that comes in handy, too. You know, you can kind of vary it based on the festival. The festival is a family-friendly festival to begin with, so it's nice to have different age groups, even for the volunteers.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you oftentimes get those type of volunteers that you might not like, or where you, let's say you not might like, but have done something, and you're like, okay, we have to kind of remove this volunteer. Has that ever happened? And if so, like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah. Well, we've had let's see, I think we're in our 36th year this year.
Wow.
But over that time period, we really have only had that happen once.
Really?
And
that's good.
That was a really kind of an interesting situation, but it was just a person that made everyone uncomfortable, and that was too bad, but we were finally able to talk with him one-on-one and say, this really is not the right fit for you or us. So that is really not what we want to be about, because we want everyone to get involved. But this was just an unfortunate situation, and it was handled, and it's too bad. But that's probably going to happen, because when you're dealing with all kinds of people. But we're happy to say that that's only happened one time.
Yeah, which is not bad, because, I mean, if you think about it, for that many years, I think what helps you remove that uncomfortableness with most of the volunteers is that actually you're trying to get to know them.
Right.
You're having events outside of the festival and getting a chance to interact with them and having them to interact with one another.
Exactly. So I think that really, we've got those relationships built. And if someone realizes it's not for them, they're not going to stay around.
Yeah.
Just this one case, this person, for whatever reason, he really wanted to be part of it, and it was just not going to work.
This is not going to work. You cannot volunteer.
Yeah, it's very difficult to fire a volunteer, isn't it?
Isn't it?
I mean, how do you do that?
What do you say? Stop doing what you're doing for free.
Right.
It can get challenging, but do you ever have dropouts that you have to deal with, especially last minute? Like, let's say a day before your festival is happening, you've already arranged everything, you have shift slots ready, and now a few folks here and there cannot make it for various reasons. How do you manage that?
We might have that happen just here and there, but really, honestly, we don't. And I think, again, it's building the relationships and getting people feeling that they have a commitment and they want to do this, and it's exciting. Now, when the weather's not so good, can be kind of challenging at the end. We've had a couple of years, which any outdoor festival will, the weather was rainy or not so nice. And so then when we're shutting down, then we kind of don't have as many volunteers as we normally would, because a lot of people are just cold and miserable and have left.
Yeah.
But so that's probably really the only time when it's really been impactful.
So not too bad.
Yeah. So all in all, that's just really not a problem for us.
Yeah. So it's not too challenging in general.
Right. And we usually have a lot of people, we say people have to work 2 hours to get a T-shirt. That's what our minimum requirement is, which we really don't want people to work 2 hours. We really would like them to spend a lot more time than
all day.
Right. But most people don't. Most people spend their whole weekend there. And so that's the good thing. And so there's usually, even if somebody hasn't signed up for something, if somebody's shorthanded, people will just pitch in, because people are around and
they're there to help.
Right. Yeah. And they want to get involved, and they wouldn't be there. So, really, typically people pitch in, and it's if we're shorthanded in some space, that gets worked out.
Yeah, that's good to know that too. That even if you are short-staffed or short staffed on volunteers, you do get that opportunity that anyone can just jump in and feel a part of the community altogether. Yeah.
Yep.
So can you tell us some of the benefits? Because I know some of our listeners may be interested in volunteering.
I hope so.
I know, that's very exciting. What are some of the benefits of volunteering, and how can they join, for Duluth Fall Festival?
Okay, well, the first thing to join is go to our website, which is duluthfallfestival.org. And there's a volunteer menu, and you can find everything on there about volunteering and what the different opportunities are.
Yeah.
And then we encourage you to come to our next meeting, which is always the last Thursday of the month.
Okay.
Except for during October to December, January rather.
Taking a break.
Right. So it's always the last Thursday of the month, and just show up. And if you want 350 new friends, then Instant Friends come in, because it's a great way to get to know a bunch of people. And even if you don't live in Duluth, if you do live in Duluth, we definitely want you. If you don't live in Duluth, we still do, because there's something for everybody to do.
Why not?
Right.
You're a neighboring city, too. So, it comes in handy when you get the neighbors involved as well.
Right, right.
What about for those folks that are just interested in attending? Can you share some dates, some exciting things, even like your probably most favorite thing that you love about Duluth Fall Festival to get folks excited?
Okay, well, our festival is always the last weekend in September.
Yes.
And so we do that for a couple of reasons, but one thing is it saves us money on our signs, because then we can reuse them every year.
That comes in handy.
So, but it's easy to remember too. So we don't have a specific date, because it's always the last weekend in September.
Yeah.
But again, you can go to our website and go to the events menu, and you can see the different things that are going on.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things is at right after our opening ceremony, we have an opening ceremony on Saturday morning, and that's where we have local dignitaries, and we usually have a grand marshal at the parade from the parade there, and this is right after the parade. Elvis comes and sings.
Ooh.
So that's always nice. You can say if you want to see Elvis. And I should have said more about our parade, but our parade is a great parade. We have the largest parade in Gwinnett County.
Wow, really?
And we have everything from cheerleaders and bands and local businesses and firemen and just you name it. So it's a big parade.
Yeah.
And so because of that, if you are going to come on Saturday, make sure you get there early so you don't, because the streets get closed.
We're going to be there early.
Or take one of our shuttles, and the shuttles don't run during the parade though, so that's why you need to get there early or come after the parade, because that's kind of going to be hard to get around during that parade time frame. And speaking of that, the parking is going to be very, very limited this year, because we have lots of construction going on in Duluth. So we really encourage people to take our shuttles.
Yeah.
And we have 3 different shuttle parking lots at different schools located kind of near, within Duluth, but off the campus of the downtown. So we encourage you to use one of those. They're free and air conditioned, and it just makes it easier on everybody. So then we've got the parade and our opening ceremony, which is great.
Right.
The vendor booths are always really good. We have all kinds of different arts and crafts, and we try to get a variety of things so we don't have tons of duplication. And then we have, on Saturday, we have our road race, which starts early. And again, we have the booths and so forth. We have a church service on Sunday as well. That's right before the festival formally opens up. And we have delicious food booths, and then we have a carnival. So, there's really, we try to hit every group of people, something for everybody. And we even have a place called Man's Corner, which has got football.
What is that?
I know. And women are welcome too.
Hey, I know. I like football.
And so we have a big screen TV there and football. And so if somebody comes with their spouse and they're not really that into the craft thing, they'd like to see what's going on with their favorite team. Yeah, then they can go to that tent and they can watch their football game.
That's really nice.
So we really try to do something for everybody. And of course, I had mentioned this earlier, but we have 2 different stages that have entertainment. It's all free.
Yeah.
And everything's free too, by the way. Our festival is not a paid event.
Right.
So our stages run all different kinds of music, from Elvis, as I mentioned, to small bands, to dance groups, to cheer squads, and you name it. And so there's all kinds of things that something that'll appeal to everybody. That's what we try to do, something that someone, we can find anything that there's going to be something for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's one of the largest festivals, right? Is it like in the Southeast or something?
I think it is one of the larger ones in the Southeast. Yeah. Yes. And a few years ago we did win the best festival in the Southeast. Yes. And so that was a really great thing for us, and we would like to win it again, but we just haven't gotten the paperwork together to submit. We'll have to. That's a whole task in itself. But we were so proud of that, to get that year, and that was a really great honor.
Yeah, and you should be, because the festival is so much fun. I think there's so much beauty that goes behind it, and just knowing that all of this is community driven. It's not privately done. This is your passion, your community, your folks, right? Like, it brings together. That's why we want to be there. That's why it's so exciting for us. So for all the listeners that are listening, remember last weekend in September, right? Make sure to be there. Make sure to be there early. Don't miss out. There's a parade, which is going to be very exciting. We'll be there. Of course, Alana will be running around everywhere.
Right. Come see me. Come to the food concession booth. That's where most of the festival staff will be kind of in and out that general area. But yes, if you'd like to meet me, go up to the concession stand and have them page me, and
just say hello.
Yeah, I'd love to meet you.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. Well, thank you so much, Alana, for joining us. You have been incredible, and I know you're very, very busy with so many things going on in your life, but also there's the festival planning. So Of course it's very busy. We're very, very grateful that you're here today to just give us a glimpse of what the festival will look like, what the volunteer process is, I guess, how it works, and everything around that. So thank you again so much for being here. It means a lot to us.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, listeners, for joining. Although the event industry includes a lot of stressful work and late meetings or late events, just remember that every event you help to bring to life creates memories of a lifetime for many people out there. Did you love this episode of Plantastic Events? We'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on iTunes. Each week, we'll give a shout out to the Reviewer of the Week. Also, don't forget, we have resources available at stewjap.com. Thank you for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time. Goodbye. Produced by stewjap.com. Music by Justin Mahar.